do the county's business without fear of any kind of retribution of any kind, other than the mistakes that we make. Dear God, we just pray for the soldiers, the lawmen, the ambulance folks, the hospital people, everybody that's a first responder, and all of our men and women that's fighting for us. Just be with us as we go through this meeting. May we do it in a workmanlike manner. We ask all these things in Jesus' precious, holy, blessed name. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
No, I didn't bring my paper. We need to use a teleprompter.
All right. At this time, any person with business before the court not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the court. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to remind the court that December 31st will be the end of the 30 and 3 that we had for our billing issue or payment. So if we want to renew that, we can renew that in January since we're in a spike of COVID. So if we still want to do that, we can. We just need to renew it because as of the 31st, it will be done.
Okay.
Just going to remind you all about that.
Is it worked well, Jason?
I've had a few people take advantage of it, not as many as I thought, but when the few people that did, it did work.
Okay. We can reevaluate it in January, like you said, and if you'll have kind of a preparation of how it's done so far and all that when we get ready. And if I know you're going to have that ready tomorrow.
It's ready now, if you want.
See? All right, thank you, Jason. Presentations and discussions, department head, committee, and board reports. It's time again. Everybody's busy. Anything we need to discuss on any of these reports? Okay. Anything, Craig, on those? Good to go? Okay. Court to consider approval of previous court minutes
With the correction?
with
The
corrections.
correction. I gave you the corrections. So.
I didn't say anything wrong. That was the correction.
Yeah, no, but kind of hard for you to make a motion and second.
True. That's not what I was doing. Talking.
That's a motion, I second it.
Correction.
With corrections.
With corrections. All right, all in favor? Motion carries. Court to discuss and consider interprecinct project schedule and staffing. Y'all have anything?
I'm assuming on personnel, we're going to do that on the Tech 1, Tech 2, there down the line. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, good thing that we were able to do, and I believe Precinct 3 did a lot of theirs last year, was to fog seal our roads prior to any moisture falling that was freezing. And all our roads we've been aiming to do this for the last 2 years, and it didn't happen for one reason or another. And so inclement weather, guys having to leave early, working on roads, fighting fires, whatever it might have been. We didn't get it done the last 2 years. We got it done now. The roads look great. Had to wash a few cars because that stuff does get on them. If they drive them, especially, go around cones that look like cars, and some of them that look like cars that, you know, like you see of the police that they are training, and so they're going in and out of those cones. And their cars, instead of white, they're black or red,
Sure.
black. But we got them cleaned up, those that needed us to do that.
Good.
And everything looks good in precinct 1 for our paved roads.
We're gonna do it in precinct 3 of first year. And the bridge on 398, that was a TxDOT 9010 grant. We've had a few issues with it, but I think we got them resolved yesterday. And, they were saying yesterday they thought barring any complications, be complete the end of January.
Awesome.
So, like I said, we had a few bumps in the road, but I think we got them straightened out yesterday with landowners.
Okay.
And I guess other than that,
They do build some very good bridges.
yeah, this one, yeah, it's,
And we don't have to pay but 10%, right? Even though
yes,
that's-
this one is roughly a $500,000 grant. And we paid, I think it was 465,000, and I paid 46,000 at something for 10%.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing.
and it's gonna be, the original was 15 foot wide with 8 inches of concrete poured on top of a wooden bridge. And this one's gonna be 24 foot wide, guardrail to guardrail.
That's great.
And slowly but surely.
That's good.
I guess also there's, if you see these little thumper trucks everywhere, you won't see lines this time. They've got updated their technology. And they're all out, especially in the west area. They're on a lot of Scurry County property. But they're just out there trying to find more oil money to come into this county. So if they can find it on our property, we own the mineral rights, that's gonna be a boon to us.
Absolutely.
That's another good thing
That is good.
going on.
Hopefully they'll find something. I talked to the new engineer out of Abilene for TxDOT on Monday. Super nice guy. He has said that they're wanting to continue their good relationship with Scurry County. Said that if you know of any roads that need repair that are owned by TxDOT, please let him know. They're wanting to add those to the list and get those taken care of. So if y'all know of any, I don't drive all the roads that y'all do. So if y'all hear of any others, let us know and we'll pass it on to them.
There are plenty.
I'm sure there are.
It's horrible. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they know that.
Yeah.
It won't hurt to remind them.
All the way down to
East 180.
Yes. It's
Okay.
terrible.
Okay.
And a lot of that's due to, I've noticed the last year, mother lives up there, but the traffic on 180 is tripled and then dodging I-20.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that's part of it.
And then the oil field has, since they found oil and gas out there, I think Jim said there was one well pumping 2,700 barrels of oil a day, along with 3,000 barrels of water plus the natural gas.
Nice.
So that's a lot of activity going on.
It is.
I see it.
Sure, they got a pipeline for the saltwater. They're not always, but
Right.
And they built 60 new pipelines out there in the last 2 or 3 years. Wasn't that what they were talking about doing? Still working on that. That's a lot of
60
pressure.
miles of new pipeline. And now we got another one down there. It's coming out of Fisher County. Coming across. A 10-inch gas line.
It's a lot of gas. It's a lot of gas.
All these they built were too small because it wouldn't carry the amount of gas that's coming out of those formations.
Okay. Good.
So they're learning.
Good. Good.
tearing up our roads. But we're gonna get to fix them,
Yes,
grant money, so that's great.
absolutely. Okay, anything else? All right, court to huh?
When do they come and check them bridges?
Nearly every year,
Yeah, they do it.
they don't always tell you.
They won't tell you.
Yeah.
They'll just call you and say, we're putting this bridge on the list, because there's four in Fisher County.
Yeah.
And this one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't, they just show up.
They used to send me reports.
Yeah, they used
I hadn't had one in a while,
to- used
so they're
to
getting-
send me,
less knowledge.
That's something we can ask if they can start sending them
Certainly.
that.
send me a picture and all of it.
Mhm.
Used to.
And they did when they sent me the deal for that one, they sent pictures.
Yeah.
But I had no idea they were
Even inspecting.
even
Yeah.
doing that, so. Of course, that was thanks to COVID, 2020 was supposed to be completed 18 months ago.
Wow.
Okay, court is to discuss and consider going out for bids to sell five Zoll Auto Pulse automated CPR devices to include life bands, batteries, and battery chargers. This is the same ones that we went out for bids on earlier. And we're gonna try it again if y'all agree to do that. Think there's another opportunity out there to get bids at get higher bids. So instead of just selling them outright, I think that checked with
You never know
legal and
Until you try.
absolutely.
And we rejected the last one because it was
So-
nothing.
Yes, it was too low.
Yeah, it was. I'll make the motion to go out for bids again.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Court to discuss and consider revisions to the personnel policy manual. So, where are those? All right, you have, copies of what we're discussing. Holiday is gonna have the red writing on it, and they're all paperclip, coronavirus, longevity pay, and then road and bridge maintenance tech 1 and 2 job descriptions. We discussed the holiday, changing that to accrue at a rate of 8 hours per holiday during the pay period the holiday falls in. Adding at the end of that first paragraph, a list of holidays approved by the Commissioners Court for the current year, specifying days of the week and dates may be obtained from your department head, county treasurer, or the county judge's office. And 9.02, adding, if the employee is unable to take the scheduled holiday and is granted the 8 hours to use at a later date, the employee has 60 calendar days from the scheduled holiday date to use the accrued 8 hours. If holiday is not used in the 60-day time frame, it is forfeited. And then 9.03, removing receive another day off in lieu of the holiday and changing it to accrue 8 hours of holiday leave to use within 60 days of the scheduled holiday, and adding if holiday is not used in the 60-day time frame, it is forfeited. These were looked at by county attorney. He did make some recommendations, and those recommendations are in here. And that would be adding the forfeited wording on there.
So this affects road and bridge about as much as anybody when we have a holiday on Friday, which they don't work.
It won't affect those that work. Well, it'll more, parts of this will affect more of those 24 hours. So what we had before, and I apologize, you weren't in the last meeting, and
Right.
so what we discussed was that currently the way the holiday policy is, you can take your holiday anytime during the year. So if January 2nd rolls around, you just used your New Year holiday on January 1st, you could use your 4th of July, your any other holidays immediately. I don't think that's good policy. I think that the holiday, you shouldn't use the holiday until the holiday comes up. However, there are times when you have those that are 24-hour, like EMS and Sheriff's Department, that they have to work on those days. They would be, that's where the 60-day wording comes in, allowing them to still get that holiday, but they have to use it within 60 days or it's forfeit.
This also is, the sheriff has implemented this plan a number of years ago. This matches his, so that we're not having multiple policies.
Well, does it work for him? I mean, does he like it?
Yes. Y'all do something similar, Jason?
Yes.
And it works for you as well, correct?
It does.
So that's something to mull over the next few minutes. We discussed the coronavirus policy, changing it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to let y'all read over it, but it basically changes it to, from what we currently have to allowing up to 2 scheduled work weeks of pay. Now, one thing that did come up since we last discussed this was you have a doctor, you go to the doctor if you have symptoms, you test negative for coronavirus, but the doctor still tells you you have to quarantine. The way it was written before, you didn't get paid for that. You weren't covered. You had to have a positive diagnosis. And then the change was to where you have either stating the employee did go to the doctor and the diagnosis of coronavirus or quarantine directive will need to be on the note. So the employee would just have to make sure the doctor says that, or doctor puts on the note that they are directed to quarantine. So, we checked on coronavirus versus COVID. Coronavirus should cover all of those.
Okay, why is he quarantined if he don't test for it?
No, he will test. You have to have either a test, a positive test, or sometimes, and we had this in my household, and we've had it with employees. One employee I know of for sure, where the doctor has told him, you've got a negative test, but you still have to quarantine.
Well, that's what I was trying to ask. I just
Yeah.
didn't get it as plain as you did. Why?
Every doctor's different. Some are more conservative than others.
They were
And
directly exposed to the virus, which they could be a carrier of it.
that's a better
You
way
could
to
test
explain it.
negative for the disease, but you could be a carrier of it and still test negative and give it to somebody else. So that's, especially if it's somebody in your household. So if your wife tested positive, but you tested negative, you're going to be quarantined for 10 to 14 days. That's what.
Well, I can see if she's
Right.
got it, yeah, and you've been there, I can see that, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what the doctor's gonna,
Okay, I
Quarantine.
understand it now. I understand it, yeah.
but you won't have a diagnosis of COVID.
Well, that's, but if she's already got it and you've slept in the same bed,
Can't some of these quarantines last like 24 days?
Can. It might.
Depends on what guidelines you're.
Yeah, depends on which doctor.
Yeah. Because I've got a man out now, half his family's got it, but he hadn't got it yet, but
Been there.
10 to
Been there, done
24
that. Yes, sir. So, and that's something else to think about on this, I guess, is if someone in the family gets it and you have to quarantine for 10 days and you have to quarantine for an additional 14 days, then you're looking at 24 days.
and I have one more question about that. Like this one employee, he's crunch time on being able to burn his vacation.
Mhm.
Is there any way, is he gonna lose his vacation because he's in quarantine?
Yes,
Good question.
he will,
He will.
because our policy states that you can only carry over 80 hours
Yeah.
of vacation into the new year.
I've got that with my department too.
Yeah, I can see both sides, but.
Sure. All right, so that's another one to think about for the next few minutes. And then the longevity, as we discussed in the last week, which I'll update you, we're following the,
I watched it, but I don't remember it.
okay, so currently we're following the 2012 policy. In practice, we have two policies, 2012 and 2014. 2014 says that you're gonna get paid $5 a month for every, up to, I guess, for every year that you're here, you get paid $5 a month, up to $60 that month, that year. The way what we're following currently, which is 2012, the older policy, is $60 a year for the first 5 years, then it jumps to 120, then it jumps to 180 at 11 to 15. And that's what most people are getting right now, is that jump. Not most, that's what all people are currently getting as far as longevity goes. So if we were to follow the newer policy, then those employees that currently have longevity of more than 5 years, and those that are up to 40 years, will lose quite a bit of pay that they've been relying on for years. We could do several things. Keep it as it is, continue to follow the longevity pay schedule that we have, that we are currently following, replace the 2014 policy with the 2012 longevity pay policy, and continue on that way. Or we can set up two situations where we're continuing to pay employees off of the 2012 that are current employees. Any new employees can follow the newer policy. And then the third option is to just go with the 2014 policy for everybody and cut everybody to that longevity.
Chances are that was part of some people's decision, the 2012 policy, when they went to work here, because it was 40 years ago.
Sure.
And don't know that it's fair to punish them for something they were told they were going to get when they went to work here. Okay? Now, we could go with new hires with 14 policy. But that's gonna be a accounting nightmare for that one and that one, I think, because it's still too loud, is it?
It's two different policies that we'll have to follow, so you just have to know when somebody's hired, what policy they fall on.
And is that gonna affect us getting somebody who wants to make a career out of Scurry County? And because if the 14 policy at $5 a month, 1,800 is the most you could ever generate. I see it both ways, but I'm saying token because we can't up the pay. You know, so I see it both ways. We need to pick one or the other.
I see it one way. May not be right, but that's the only way I see it. If you told a fella back there he's gonna get it, he needs to get it. If new one comes along, he's told that he don't. You know, there's the time you change it. You're not gonna get that. We don't hand them out no more like that. And you stick with that. You just can't go back and change somebody that, and, you know, maybe for lack of better words, the county went crazy on some things, you know, and been doing. But that's just my opinion. But I just don't think you change in the middle of spring.
Okay.
If he's got it coming, she's got it coming, just back your nose and pay it, that's all I know. And then tell that one that it comes next time, and you're gonna get this, but it ain't, you're gonna be mad because somebody's gonna tell you one of these days it was 5 times more. But it ain't.
Right.
It's 5 times less. So that's my deal.
Okay.
But basically what you're saying is, if we, the only thing, we're not gonna go back, which I fully agree with. If we go with 14's policy for new hires starting in 2021, that's the only fair way to do it. So
Do what now?
in 2021, if you go with 14 policy, which puts them at a max of accumulating $1,800 for anybody that's hired next year. Don't mess with what's, because I agree 100%, you don't go back on your word,
Mm-mm.
but I'm talking about for new hires.
New hires, figure what you want them to have. And I don't know what it is. Y'all are talking above my pay grade right
Let's
now.
go to your analogy then, all right? So those that work here already have that big sucker. Are we gonna give those new hires that big sucker? Or are we
No, I
gonna give them
done
that little
said that,
sucker?
no, I think that new sucker is ought to be out of the program.
So follow the new policy for the new hires.
Yeah, if you're gonna give them something, all right, give them something or whatever, if that's what it calls for. Or if it calls for that we can't afford it anymore, even. Just, this is what you get.
Sure.
Now, if you hear that he got an all-day sucker, you don't get one,
Okay.
you know?
So,
But we still like for you to go to work, but this is what we can pay right here.
following two policies.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I got lots of thoughts. I agree, we can't go back.
Right.
I don't wanna make it more difficult on those that have to push these policies either. The thing of it is, if we were, and I know we got boom and bust, if our salaries in Scurry County were anywhere near oil field salaries, and they have gone down, they do every time the oil field falls. But whenever it's going, and it's going a lot, we know it doesn't last a long period of time. We're already back to $46 a barrel. I'm seeing a lot of activity.
It always comes back.
It does. And it will for our lifetimes, probably.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, there's lots of things. We're not at those salaries at all. Our people work as hard as anybody that works in the oil industry. The reason we get good people from oil that don't work in the oil field anymore is because of boom and bust. And they'll take the lower salary because of the benefits. They're at a time that they can do that. What I have seen too, though, is you got this new hire and you got this old hire, and this old hire is getting all this longevity and this new hire is not. And he says, what in the world's wrong with you people? Because they talk to each other whether you want them to or not. You know, they talk about salaries. Oh, so you're making $3 more an hour than I am? Are you kidding me? Well, I'm doing the same job you're doing. And it's not about longevity or anything, it's about the pay. And that's what you hear too. So that's why we came back and we redid the salary schedule to try to get in everybody. And we're still not there. Because just as we was talking this morning, Christian and I, got a jail certification or deputy certification, and they get a lot more than someone that's got a 4-year bachelor's degree. And so we're still not there. Sean's right. It's very difficult. I don't see it happening any time in the next few years of giving a raise across the board. It's just probably not going to happen. Why would we take away a benefit? Because it costs money to have new hires. It costs time and effort to train them. We've got to figure out a way to keep, we want these people to stay a long time because they have learned their jobs and they do it well. And if they don't, their supervisor will send them packing. I've had to do that a couple of times and I don't like it. But if you won't line up to what the rules are and you're not happy where you are, you should go. But that doesn't happen very often. Whenever you get someone working with you and you're good to them, even if they're not getting the pay they could get in the oil field, they want to stay. Young people even. I mean, I got a guy right now that's what, junior, he's what, in 30s? He don't want to go anywhere. I mean, thank God that we've got somebody that's got some training and that wants to work and stay there. And if we start taking things away that, like this 2014 policy, they're gonna say, you know, I don't even get a third of what they get in the oil field when it's been, why do I want to stay here? I'm young, I'm going to jump, and millennials are the worst. They have no desire to stay most of the time in a job. They want to do whatever, whoever offers the most going forward. And so I think that in order to keep people here for a long time, you reward them for being here and staying here and doing a good job. That's my thoughts.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's just, well, I don't disagree. So, but I do think it needs to be one way or the other.
I do too. Absolutely. I agree.
And like I said, I wasn't here in 14. I don't know how we ended up with two policies, but we did. So now we get to fight that battle. The majority of the people that go work for a county, if they've been in the oil field, they like the security. They
That's
really
it.
do.
They like a lot of things like that. That's not just the security. They like the time. They like the days that they come. You're talking about two different dogs. When you get out there in that oil field, I've been in it all my dang life. You're talking about two different dogs. And you can't compare, you know, somebody that comes in this, they love this kind of work. The next fella that come in or lady may not can stand this. He gets his clothes in or whatever, you know. Out there in the oil field, they can tell you the same gripes in the world. We can't hardly keep nobody because of this, that, and another. It rains on them, it snows on them. Everything ain't the same.
Well,
This job is not the same. This job in here, my friends, is 72 degrees most of the time.
well, isn't it in the businesses in which the people work inside? Isn't it the same in the oil field? Like 72 degrees? I mean,
Well,
Patterson had.
I guess if you go in that one building there, but you could go out to the same there.
But our
The
guys
next
are like,
300 folks is out there is not out.
no.
They're not. They're in a hurt,
Yeah.
but they love that big money. It's just two different dogs.
Yeah. And I'm just talking about, when I say the people within that are doing the work, like the auditor, the county clerk, the treasurer, their people, and out in the jail even, all of those are in similar situations as we're in right here. Only our road and bridge hands are in the muck and the mire and the rain and the snow, which is not that many of those that work in the county. The deputies are, the EMS is. And so there's a lot of these guys, they're out there and they, not only are they fighting the elements, they're fighting the sickness. The jails, HIV, tuberculosis, and we go on, health department, STDs. And they're not getting paid that money that those guys are out there because I've been in the oil field. And it is nasty, but it isn't dangerous. And their jobs are dangerous. Firefighters, they get burned up. And so do those in the oil field sometimes. But to say that they're not similar, in my mind, when you start talking about those kind of people, then I think we're getting paid a lot less for more dangerous work in a lot of ways, and the oil field used to be very dangerous. OSHA has stopped a bunch of that, you know. You can't get up in the top without all kind of safety gear in the top of a pulling unit or a drilling rig. But a lot of things have changed, but they're not dealing with disease and fire like our guys are. And people coming into our jail that are infected with something that we're all, you think
You're
COVID's bad?
dealing with this
Tuberculosis?
COVID just like you are.
Huh? They're what?
You're dealing with COVID just like you are.
Oh, I didn't say they weren't. I'm talking
Well,
about
you said they're not
tuberculosis.
dealing with the disease, but that thing sure are.
I'm not talking about COVID.
Disease and falling off of it.
Okay, we're going down a different trail.
Yeah,
No, we're not either.
Jim,
Well,
any thoughts?
you pay for a job, you get paid for a job. A lot of it is how dangerous it is and all that.
Mhm.
You're leaving part of the dadgum stuff out. That reason that man is in you think it's dangerous in that jail? Yes, I would think so much. It ain't no danger than crawling up on the top of one of them drilling rigs out there somewhere.
Oh, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying.
So it's what you choose.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh, I agree.
a lot is
I agree.
is the kind of educations that you got and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that come in that what you make.
I agree.
Jim, any thoughts?
You know,
What, Herschel, what,
I'm sorry, what?
He's getting his thoughts together.
what difference does it make in your position, the longevity?
If we're following,
12, 14, or
if we're following one specific policy, there's no difference. If we're following a combination of both policies, then there is more work. But that's for the court to decide. So I would prefer us to follow one or the other policies.
Takes longer to calculate the longevity if you have to do two different ones, and we're gonna have to go through and we have to do checks and balances through both offices. So we have to make sure we're doing hire dates on every single person and go by, if they were hired before this year, they're gonna go by the old one. If they're hired after 2021, they're gonna go by the new one. Okay, what if they left and they came back within a year? Do they go by the old one or do they go by the new one again? I mean, it's just much simpler, makes a whole lot more sense to just go by one policy. But we will do what y'all say to do, because y'all are the court.
Do you have anything else, Jim, or just that question? Okay, I have a question. You may not be able to answer it. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Of all of the employees, do we have an average? Do you know an average of how long our employees have been with Scurry County? I know we have a lot of long-term employees.
It's very much varied.
Sure.
I
We have
haven't
some 35
calculated
Haven't
those.
calculated.
The
Sure.
ones that are getting up to 35 years from retiring now.
Yeah.
You've got some 30 years, you got several 25 years and 20, and I mean,
Would you
Yeah.
say that most of our employees are 15 and more, 15 in years? I'm just
I think the majority are between 5 and 10.
5 and 10.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say it drops off significantly at the 10-year.
Okay.
That's where majority of our employees are between
Right.
that range.
But if you look at the names of the people who are in that range, it's not very likely that they're going anywhere
Sure.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
But you are seeing the ones who are at that bigger, longer range, they are getting ready
Ready
to
to
retire.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I have mixed feelings about people retiring because you have all that experience and you hate to lose them, but you want the best for them as they go forward. I guess what my point was on that is that that may be one of the benefits that most people, that these people are sticking around for, is the longevity. They know that they're going to get so much as their years go up. It's going to go up after 5 years, each 5-year period. It's going to go up that much more. And it is a benefit. It's something that it gets looked forward to. I think that anything we can do to help retain people is a good idea. I don't like the idea of following two different policies. I think that one, it can be a mess, and then two, if you have, I got this big sucker, but you only get this little sucker, that can cause problems. My personal opinion is that we follow one policy and that we follow the 2012 policy replacing the 2014 policy. Just follow that one and not have two policies. That's just my personal opinion. So,
Let's look, there's a cute little scale
Yeah.
right here. If you stay 40 years, which before we go into 2021, 2025, whatever, the less likely you're gonna have 40-year people.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you stay 40 years, your longevity is $9,000, 98.40 to be exact.
Mhm.
That's 2,200 a year average for 40 years. For longevity. If you stay, let's use the 10 to 15 year average. 15, 17, 40.
mhm.
So when you look at it like this, that's not a whole lot for being a valued employee.
Yeah.
It's really not. And it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And since we don't, Scurry County can't, as Terry said, give up full field wages, which we never will, and I don't think anybody that works here ever expects it.
Mhm.
But we can do something to retain them. And so with that being said, I'll make the motion, we go with 2012 policy.
Second.
Is that the
Okay.
big sucker or the little sucker?
That's the big sucker. Everybody get a big sucker. All right, so do you want to just vote on this one, or do we want to vote on all of the policies? Do you want to just vote on this one and come back and vote on the others? Or,
I think the other ones are pretty much cut and dry, aren't they?
yeah,
Because the longevity was, because we've got road and bridge to do.
you want to just vote on that one and then discuss it? I mean,
I mean,
do you want to add those other two into your motion?
well, I would, the other two being.
The coronavirus and the
Don't forget the
holidays
sick,
and the
sick
sick.
leave.
Sick leave.
All we're changing on that is stating that they accrue it on the first day of the month.
That's right, and accrue sick leave on the first day of the month. I stole your thunder, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this would
Well, we need to back up and go through it one more time anyway, so y'all can understand. We're all getting the same sucker.
It would, yes, everybody would get the same longevity.
Okay, is that what it was before?
That's, what has been followed all of this time, all right? So that was the 2012 policy, and that continued to be followed even when they put in a new policy in 2014. The 2014 policy was never followed for any employees. So all the employees up to now
Well,
are
why did we
following.
put it in if it wasn't followed?
Couldn't tell you, wasn't there?
Whether or not, and we weren't the ones here.
Oh, you wasn't,
It was
You
other-
were, I
it was
was.
another treasurer, and another auditor, another county judge.
What it amounts to.
you was here, wasn't you?
And so once a policy is implemented by the court, those that are implementing it within the state would
Yeah.
implement it. It didn't get implemented, like they said, they weren't here.
Right, that office did
That's
not
why
implement
that's
that
why they're
policy.
bringing it up.
I
They
need to know.
want to know what to do.
That's one of the things I do understand what they're wondering.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it didn't get implemented by those that had the ability to implement it. We just approve it. then it's implemented by
I
those.
understand that. I don't need a sermon.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not trying to get this, sir.
What I'm trying to get a hold of, we just getting back on the one lane road deal.
Right.
Yes.
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 And this way it can be put into the policy and everybody is aware and everybody knows and everybody's on the same page. And we
Okay,
know
and
what we
so,
need to follow.
so that if somebody comes up and raises Cain over it, a new hire gets the same as a 12-year, 24-year person.
They follow the same
It-
policy.
Longevity.
They
Longevity
get the
policy.
same amount,
That's
but they
what I'm
follow the
saying.
same policy.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're gonna get the same big sucker.
Yeah, so once they're here for 25 years, they'll get the same thing that this person did 25 years before.
If there's money in the bank, okay.
So back to the,
Yeah, I'm totally confused.
all right. So your motion was just on this, on the longevity.
But I don't have a problem with the sick leave
Okay,
or the
moving it to first, adding, changing the holiday policy and
COVID.
changing the coronavirus
So
policy.
yes, all three of those.
Second.
For
And a holiday.
holidays.
Sure.
Sick leave, holiday, and virus.
Yes.
The
That's why those ladies out there keep us straight.
True.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sick leave, holiday, and virus. Okay, got it.
All right, all in favor? Okay. Do we want to discuss, the road and bridge, Tech 1 and Tech 2?
Just before we go there, I think we need to add another policy that you cannot retire until you're able to say the Texas pledge without.
Oh, my That gives me 17 months. I can do it right now. Second.
It's officially in the
All in
manual.
favor? That's an unofficial. That's I think that's at least three of us, so that's unofficial. But yeah,
Well, I'm gonna get my big sucker.
all right, y'all want to discuss the road and bridge maintenance Tech 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay,
And so unless someone has something that they want to talk about on Tech 1 job description,
uh-huh,
I'd like to go to the bottom of the page.
which page?
And it says essential duties. And the last sentence says, learns to operate light equipment, this is Tech 1, such as a front end loader, 1.25 cubic yards or less.
Okay.
To my knowledge, we don't have anything like that, except you want to call a backhoe loader. Tech 2 actually calls that a backhoe, but our backhoe is less than that for certain. But whenever I hire someone,
That's the-
I
Yeah,
don't
keep going.
know about them running a backhoe, but I do need them to run a front end loader, and that's 3 yards.
Yeah, keep going.
So that is not light equipment, that's
It's gonna
heavy
be
equipment.
Mhm.
I would even
Yeah,
consider
back
large
way
backhoe
this way.
heavy equipment
All the way through.
myself. So
Before the line item.
we need to,
There you go.
we can discuss that and see where you want to go with it. That doesn't work within our frame of precincts, because we all have larger, for Tech 1s. We all expect them, I would think, don't you guys? You expect your guys to run the front end loader that only has the bucket on the front that is 3 and point something yards, right? You're a Tech 1 guy. That's the lowest pay scale.
Well, yeah,
You don't just want them to run a backhoe. Don't you want them to run a front end loader as well?
I want them to be able to run a front end loader. But I'm not so certain that, there is some hands, in my opinion, and I've got one. And I've worked him for 40-something years. And I'm not gonna make him get on that blade and hurt himself or hurt my road.
But isn't that from experience? That, you
It-
can't regulate that in a policy. You know what he's capable of doing
Well,
safely.
I thought you was trying to get that everybody's gotta be able to crawl up in every machine.
Nope.
And that don't
No.
happen.
I'm saying we've got a policy that doesn't make sense and I'd like to change it.
Well, what's it say? That you
It
don't
says
have?
the last sentence for a primarily just hired person that doesn't have all the skills of road maintenance, that they should learn to operate light equipment such as a front end loader. We don't have anything like that in our precincts. 1.25 cubic yards or less. Now, we, for the first time since I guess, ever, have a backhoe in our county. We've never had one before that I know of until about 2013, 2012, 13, something like that. So we've always used front end loaders. They don't have a backhoe on them. They have a big bucket on the front.
I know what it is.
Yeah, I know you do, but this is saying that that's a light equipment and it's less than 1.25 yards. That doesn't make sense to us because we don't have it. You've got skid steers, but that's not considered a front end loader, right? And so this policy, I'm just saying we strike that sentence because it makes no sense.
Now, my experience in road construction and heavy equipment and driving is from the early 90s. I did work in road construction that long ago. Haven't since then, but I would think that the way things were appointed aren't going to be a whole lot different. When I did it, you had laborers, and the only thing they ran was a shovel or a stop sign.
Mhm.
And you chase guineas for the blade, and if you made the blade operator mad, you were running all day. Then you had equipment operators. They specifically ran equipment. And then you had truck drivers. They drove trucks. They had CDLs to drive those trucks. So each one had a different pay scale. And I know that's different than what we do, because our truck drivers also operate the equipment. It sounds like these kind of need to change to something different. I know this was put into place when we went to the unitized system, correct?
But it was. This is something that the superintendent at the time wanted in there.
Okay,
It's just what it is. It's text dot rules.
sure, okay,
It's not, doesn't line up with counties. And you'll see that more as we go through these.
sure.
They're talking about sanding roads and cleaning bridges and
Sure.
doing landscaping.
What if we were to look at other counties and that,
We could do
they're in
that.
the same situation
Sure.
we are, that they have the people that run the same equipment or drive trucks or do what we do, because don't they kind of do the same thing with TxDOT? They have your laborer who owns the stop sign and the shovel. They have equipment operators and truck drivers, and they don't mix their jobs like we do. Isn't it similar? TxDOT
They
similar?
don't mix their jobs. We do.
Okay, so what if,
They do.
Yeah,
They do,
that's what,
they do.
that's the problem, I think. More
so
people.
why don't we look into something that's more appropriate for us
Okay.
instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole?
That suits me.
Take tax dot out of these deals.
Right,
We're not tax dot.
we're not. And if y'all don't mind reaching out to some of the other counties about our size or something like that and kind of see what they might have as
I
far
will
as.
tell you, for the most part, they won't even have a job description. This is something that we've done in the last few years.
Yeah.
But.
And I don't mind
It's possible.
reaching
I
out.
don't mind checking and looking.
County was over here yesterday.
Did they have a job description?
I don't
Okay,
appreciate it.
well, I don't mind reaching out,
You know, it needs to be something that is general,
yes,
because what I need my guys to do in my precinct, maybe Craig doesn't, or he doesn't want to do it that way, or maybe Sean doesn't.
Sure.
He's the one they're the ones, our foremans are going to determine
Mhm.
the way that we do something. I can tell you that my foreman believes that Jim doesn't have a clue about built them for 50 years.
Mhm.
And vice versa. He does it a different way. He thinks
Sure.
more efficient than what my guy does. But we don't try, we shouldn't try to make people fit in our mold.
Right.
But that is up to the commissioner and his foreman as to whether or not he wants to allow that according to his own knowledge.
Right.
But there's just so much in these two, Tech 1, Tech 2, that doesn't apply to us.
Right.
And that doesn't work.
When you reach
For
out
us.
to other, counties, make sure they don't have unitized system.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because we're not there and that is
Thank you.
not what would fit us.
Well, how many, maybe, I hope I'm getting that point here. Are you trying to figure out more than 2 pay grades? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, sir. I'm trying to just allow those that have been elected by the people and their foremans to decide what a person can and cannot do and get paid to do it. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't think we need all of this extra stuff that makes it confusing. That's things that I certainly don't want to do. I know my people. Sean knows his, you know yours. You know you're not going to let that certain guy out there on a motor grader.
That's right.
Well, I
But
may
he can
have,
do everything else better than most of them
that's
others
what I'm
can
talking
do
about.
that.
Sure.
So,
That's your decision, not mine.
that's right. And that's the reason I don't understand why we're getting into this.
Because this is,
You are running yours.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I can
Well,
understand why you're gonna pay the same, you're not gonna have 14 pay grades, in other
Yes.
words.
No.
You're gonna have 2, maybe 2 pays.
right,
What it comes down to is these policies were put into place when we went to a unitized system for that foreman to have different pay grades for the people that worked for him at that time. It might have worked for what the unitized system was, and it might work for what a business does, but it doesn't work for how we have to do things as with each commissioner running their own precincts.
He had
so-
assigned people and maintaining people and
Yeah.
all this.
So
We don't have it.
doing dirt work, you've got a blade operator, that's your blade operator. You've got a scraper operator, that's your scraper operator. You got a roller operator, that's your roller operator. You've got a laborer who's standing there with the stop sign or running the shovel. They all have different pay scales. That doesn't work for us too much. And then you have the truck drivers who have a CDL who deliver the materials or dump trucks or belly dumps or whatever. They all have a different pay in a private business because that's the way it takes different skills to run those different equipment. The way we are, we have a group of guys who run all of that equipment. They can't, or generally, they can all jump on one piece of equipment or another. They can jump in a truck, they can jump on a roller, they can jump on, well, we don't have any scrapers, do we? Loaders. And so we need something that's a better fit for us as far as this policy goes, instead of something that fits TxDOT or a private business.
Well, do it like you want to. I thought we just had 2 pay grades.
that's all we have.
We do.
And that suits me.
We
And
do, but the
before that-
descriptions don't fit.
Before that, we didn't have but one.
Yeah.
And so one's easier than, because we cross-train, don't y'all? You cross-train everybody to be able to do the same thing, because that blade operator might be on vacation or sick. And you just had a rain and you need those Fleetchy roads graded, so we cross-train everybody, right? We don't have specific jobs.
We
And-
don't, we don't
hold on.
cross-train everybody because I got one.
Well,
Sure.
we try. We know what
I'm
they
not
can
gonna
do.
let him do it.
Well, that's
Three.
it, yeah.
Foreman's.
And you have foremans.
Yeah,
So
and of
there's
course, the
3.
foreman is gonna get paid more,
Yeah.
you're right, thank you. That's not
So-
Tech 1, Tech 2 though.
And that's what it is.
It's a
just-
foreman.
Yeah, foreman.
It's policies that don't fit what we do.
At the same time, Judge, there are things within this that
Sure.
does make sense, so we can utilize those things.
Sure.
So competencies, working knowledge of,
Yeah.
methods, proceed. I'm not saying we have to castigate the whole thing,
Sure.
because there are some general things in here that does work.
Right.
But for the most part, I don't want a policy telling me how to hire, who to hire, when to hire, and being so specific that I can't work within that because it is making me either lower the wages of a man that we've talked about before, and even though he can run a backhoe and a motor grader, because he doesn't have a CDL, because these ladies are supposed to be following policy, and that's what they're in here for today, talking to us about policies. And at some point, need to follow them. We all agree that we need to follow them, but I don't need that specific for me. I know what my guy can do, just like Craig does his. And you want, it's more important, like Craig said, to me. It's
Well,
way more important to have that motor grader operator than a CDL.
I didn't realize that you couldn't use common sense out there and run the dead blame place.
Well, you follow
In
policy,
other
you
words, that
can't
don't-
necessarily do it.
You know, if the man can't get his driver's license for some reason, but he can run that grader or he can run the loader, hey, I think that's reason you got voted in for you to make that dead blame decision.
Yeah.
I don't see that it's gotta be down here on this
And that's happening,
this
but
paper.
that's happening in all the precincts, I feel like, but this is a policy that doesn't fit with what we do. So, and I'm personally thinking we should set it aside for now
I agree.
and come back to it another time, look at other
Well, I
policies.
didn't mean to make you mad.
I'm not mad.
One thing
I'm
I
not
want to
mad.
point out is because this is a lot over just this, there are a lot more that we're gonna have to
Sure.
go through to fix.
Yeah,
It's a lot of things that weren't being followed or whatever. We just
Yeah.
need to update it to have a correct current
I
stuff
agree.
that we're gonna go by.
absolutely.
Whether y'all want to change your own job descriptions, we don't care. It just needs to be something that's going
Needs
to
to be
be
uniform,
followed and
followed.
put into place and
And
that
you're
we
absolutely
can go
right.
by.
Yeah, that's not the only policy that needs to be.
There's a
looked at.
lot. And
So-
there's several.
And
And we
that's
can
the
just
implement
push
what
that
we
back
require.
into the other ones. I don't think it's a dire situation on that policy. So,
I just think, like I say, I think the man that's running that place, and if he's there every day paying attention to his job, he's gonna be able to say,
and that,
that man right there, I need that man. I don't need him right there. What are you doing right
Let me
now?
put-
I'm
Let
gonna
me
get
put it
him over
to you
here.
this way too, as well, Ms. Merrick.
Yes, ma'am.
If we have a description, a current actual
I'm
description,
Craig
accurate.
too. I'm not a Mr. Man.
Sorry, sir. But if we have a current accurate description and God forbid, one of your people were injured. We have a job, if he was doing something he is not
Supposed to be.
supposed to be doing, we have documentation showing that. He was not qualified to be doing this. Or if he was supposed to, we have documentation for that
But
way as
that's,
well.
that's the reason
It's
I'm
your-
getting to, ma'am. That man, and even old Craig ought to be the one that makes that decision if he's the one that's gonna get his butt eat out for getting this man getting hurt.
let me throw
Not
something
a
else
piece
at
of
you, Craig.
paper that tells you
But
something.
you have, the law doesn't care if it's you. They need to have the documentation.
Let me throw something else at you, Craig. So you've got a guy who says, who's getting paid one rate, the higher rate.
Mhm.
And we'll use Terry's example of the CDL driver, the guy that does not have a CDL. He's getting paid at that rate that's Tech 2 that says you shall have a CDL
Mhm.
to get paid this.
Yeah.
You hire somebody else new who does not have a CDL. He gets paid at that Tech 1. Well, why
I
is he
had
getting
that.
paid?
I had that. I had Taylor
Alright,
for a long
if he turns us
time.
in, that can be a liability on Scurry County if we're paying someone higher for a job description that he can't follow, but someone else is getting paid at
That's the
that lower
reason
rate.
he didn't drive until he got his driver's
It's not
license.
about driving. It's not about driving, it's about how much they get paid.
That's the only way you got the more money.
But if
You
this
didn't get the,
description
you didn't,
says,
that's reading it. As a matter of fact, it's on this deal. Here, wherever it is in here somewhere, that I had to, put more money in the bank because we had pushed Taylor up because he'd got his driver's license.
okay,
And we didn't have enough money to pay him here at the end.
it's not about how much money, it's about the
Well, it
law.
damn sure is.
It's about the law, Craig, the
It
law.
ain't about the
federal-
law. He
There.
come up from one.
Okay,
aspect.
we're talking apples and oranges, okay? You're talking about moving from someone from part-time to full-time. I'm talking about two different employees getting paid different rates for doing the same job, but one is getting paid, or
Well, I
one.
didn't know
one
that
getting
was
paid-
happening in this county.
All right, so if we have somebody who gets hired under a Tech 1, they don't have a CDL.
That's
All
right.
right. Somebody else is getting paid as a Tech 2. They don't have a CDL, but they're still getting that higher pay. Fair Labor Standards Act says that that new employee could come in and sue us because we're paying that guy for making more money than what he makes. Okay, it's a federal law that I'm talking about. That we're not talking about whether, we're moving somebody to full-time, from part-time to full-time, or we're moving someone from position to position and making common sense decisions within your precinct as to whether they can run this equipment or not. We're talking about someone getting paid more for doing the same job with the same standards.
Well, has that happened?
It is happening. It could happen.
Well,
If we
it
hire
could
somebody,
and
let's
did.
put it, if we
It
hire
is.
somebody,
It is.
if we hire somebody at a Tech 1, but we have somebody at a Tech 2 who has not met the standards of Tech 2, that can get us in trouble with the federal.
Well, I hope it
federal
wasn't
law.
in my precinct because I didn't know it.
But
Judge,
that's
I
why
would
that's
ask that
important.
we take no action for now.
Okay, that's what
And
we're
Rob
gonna
can
do.
go on. Thank you.
Okay, and we're gonna look at other policies that will fix all of this. All right, court to consider accepting donations to county entities. Senior Center, $14,174. They finally had their quilt sale.
Well,
Wow, that's right.
Yeah,
Amazing.
during all this COVID, they did pretty good. Had library donations.
you gotta give me my TV credit.
I'm not sure if TV tray's big enough.
I'll find it and I'll get it for you.
I'll figure you will.
Oh, it'll be here. We'll get one
There's one in here somewhere.
somewhere.
It was down in the break room.
Oh.
So those are the donations.
Judge, I make a motion, we accept all donations to the county.
All in favor? Okay. Court to discuss and consider adoption of the 2021 county holiday schedule. December 23rd and 24th next year, that's Thursday and Friday. It's a Christmas, usually it's 24th, 25th, Christmas holiday for both of those. That's the only one that I can see that might be kind of funky. Do you want to keep doing, you want the Thursday, Friday, or do you want to change that to Friday, Monday? Or you want to keep it as is?
Either way, you're gonna do a long weekend.
Yeah.
It's fine with me either way.
For some people, the 23rd and 24th is best, for some
Yeah,
people, the
that's-
25th, 6th, 7th is best.
All right, all right.
So,
I think you did a good job, Judge.
Oh, that was something.
I make a motion, we accept the holiday schedule as shown.
All in favor? All right. Court to discuss and consider wait a minute.
Of the court.
Set the I marked out too soon. Court to discuss and consider setting regular commissioners court meeting dates for fiscal year 2021. Looking at the third Tuesday of each month will be the regular commissioners court dates for 2021.
I like regular meetings to be like they've been. I make a motion to keep them like they are, like you shall.
You're ahead of me. I'm gonna go ahead and send this one and pass it on to you, Valerie.
Okay. Thank you.
Court to discuss and consider transfer of over budgeted revenue to EMS Texas class count. So, there are certain lines that you have over budgeted revenue. It's gonna be your Medicare. And
No,
some of the
the
others.
patient receipts and
Patient
miscellaneous revenue.
Okay. You don't have a full amount at this time. The last time we looked, it was 54, 52, 56, right in there. But you're expecting more.
Over that.
A little over $50,000, but expecting more before the end of the year. This is additional revenue. It's not tax dollars. It's additional revenue, that more revenue than they budgeted for. And he'd like to put it in his Texas class. And what that would do is build up that account so that when we have to buy an ambulance, like we just had to recently do,
Capital expenditures that the court controls. Yep.
then we don't have to use tax dollars for that.
Judge, I like not hunting for money, so I make a motion that we allow the EMS to put this extra money into Texas class account.
All in
Do
favor?
we
Yeah.
have a amount or are we taking?
It's
So-
arbitrary.
Yeah, is it?
No, so, all right, so it would be whatever is over at this time, plus whatever comes in before the end of the year.
Okay, but we have within by what date? Because it has to be transferred by a certain date to be able to count.
Okay.
Like, we just can't just willy-nilly do
Sure.
it.
I guess we don't even know what that date is.
Oh,
By 31st.
I
No, the
believe
20, hold on.
yeah. No. If
Come
I
on
said
now.
the 31st, then why would I be arguing with you?
28.
The 28th. Okay, here's another thought. Do we want to go through this process every year? Or do we want to do it, set it to where?
I'm
to get
going
you
to say
started up.
this, and y'all are not gonna like this, and it's nothing about EMS, I agree that this helps to purchase capital outlay, so you don't have to tax for it. However, you set a precedent of letting departments start putting their extra revenue into a fund all the time, then never are we going to have general fund revenue reserves built back up.
I think on this.
I
type
do
of
think
fund,
this comes, ultimately an ambulance would come out of that.
Yeah.
So I get it. That's why I'm not arguing against it. Otherwise I would be. But I think if you put it on there to do it all the time, I think it needs to be when you are making future courts for what you're doing now.
Okay.
You're setting that they have to hold.
And I'm not suggesting that every department can do this. There are certain ones that should be able to do this, but not every department should be able to do this type of situation.
And so any court in the future can change it, including any of us, can change that policy if it's not working. So we can do it now for as
This
long
year.
as any court wants to keep it going that way. And it's working well. If it's working well,
If you
change it.
decide to do that, then it needs to be specified that it is just like the patient receipts and the miscellaneous revenue, not all of the revenue lines.
I agree.
Because we put over
Yeah.
$1 million of general into his
I totally agree.
budget as well.
Yeah, and this is just patient receipts
And
and
that's what he's stating, yeah,
Yes.
those two things, so.
So patient receipts and miscellaneous, anything over what was budgeted goes into Texas class as of December 28th. For
those
this
two
year.
lines.
is that the two lines you're discussing, Jason?
Yes, eventually we'd like to do something with the, education fund that we're bringing in to put back into the education program.
Sure.
But that would be,
That would be down the
the
road.
third line.
Yeah.
And the auditor, treasurer, and I can sit and talk about that and present it as such as when that becomes appropriate.
Right, down the line.
You can't have an education program without putting money back into the program.
Right.
And without putting tax dollars into that program, I would like to take the money that we earn off of that program and put it back into the program.
So we don't have an amount, do you have a rough guess?
As of December 8th, it was 76,763.52.
And how much does EMS have in Texas class now?
Over 300 something. But
Yeah.
keep in mind, we're fixing to spend 3/4 of that in January or February.
It's
that
at
ambulance that we-
September 30th, it was 330,000.
And that would be an ambulance, I assume.
In February, well, yes, we'll spend 3/4 of that fund that we've been saving the past 5 years
To get,
to get that ambulance.
Which we gave approval on a year ago.
which is why I'm not arguing this.
No, I
This
know,
is
I know.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you either.
Yeah.
To me, it's finance 101. You gotta have a savings account to purchase equipment.
When you're talking about that much equipment, you are,
Yes,
Yeah.
and expensive
it's
equipment.
hard to find.
25, 30 grand cardiac monitor for one. We're operating 5. Ambulance costs, we've already had that discussion.
And so I know it's the
Ambulances.
issue too.
Yeah, it
You
is.
got old equipment and you hurt
You gotta
somebody.
replace it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build money
Yes.
to do that with.
I'm not arguing with you.
No,
I'm saying
no,
you're in.
yeah, exactly. And so I'll amend my motion to include the 28th day of December and the 2 lines that have been put forth by MS, that they come out of, no other budgeted lines, unless we agree in some future court about the education line.
All in favor? Now, if they're under budget, there's nothing
they
going
don't-
in there.
Yeah.
No, that goes
Yeah.
without saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, there's nothing to transfer over.
Exactly. All right, court to discuss and consider placing state reimbursement funding in the EMS Texas class account for assistance in responding to Hurricane Laura.
Has it came in yet?
No,
I haven't, okay, I was like, I haven't seen that yet.
it's been approved, but we don't know what's coming today.
And we were gonna discuss that because we have the amount, but we don't know when it's gonna come in, and you just wanna be able to put that.
Put it
When
in
it
that line.
comes in, I
Yeah.
want
To
it
the
to go into that, yes, since we have the lines covered.
It was 20,
25,000,
6, 12, 41.
yeah.
and we wanted to go ahead and get it approved now, so that next year
So
it
when-
doesn't just,
So whenever the check comes in, the auditor and treasurer have a place to put it.
I'm not positioned, but we don't have that.
Second.
all in favor? Court to consider adopting a resolution on the 2021 indigent defense grant program. I have to,
Easy to get.
yeah. I'm supposed to pick up someone, but I'm gonna make other arrangements.
This is something we do every year for our IDF grant, so that we can get anywhere from, sometimes it's like 15,000, sometimes it's 21, 22,000 for indigent defense. It may start going up because now we have to start tracking CPS, indigent defense as well, or not defense, but paying for the court costs
Yeah.
for,
Court costs.
the attorneys
Mhm.
for the CPS cases.
Yes, not that we have to pay those yet, but that we have to track them.
Yeah, now we have.
And, but they didn't send any money except for a little
What are the
Yeah.
change
Yeah,
for the cost, so
you're
you know, you
absolutely
get what
right.
you can get, and hopefully we can work with our legislatures to make it better.
Yes, let me throw something else at you, is that you're going to see an increase in indigent defense come out of my court because they've changed how we are required to do that.
Imagine that.
Yes, so we've already seen an increase this year. I don't know that we're going above it, but in the coming years,
One thing that I
especially when we
can
get
add
through
on
COVID.
that is, on the calculations for the tax at the end of the, during budget time now,
Yeah.
we are now allowed to count that to help go towards our calculation, as
Yeah.
well as like the mental health services that the
Mm-hmm.
inmates receive and all that, which are all unfunded mandates, but now we get to calculate it into our tax rate. to
Absolutely.
help with that.
And it helps a little bit.
It helped quite a bit this last time.
Yeah.
Again, it's still,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, you know, it looks, yeah, it's helping us, but it's still not coming from the proper
Right,
place.
Right, yeah. And so this year with COVID, you've had less arrests, less people coming through the court system. Our courts have slowed down. We've done less
We
courts.
have had more mental health assessments.
We have had.
A lot of mental health assessments.
Right, we have. But next year, once vaccines out and everything kind of starts getting back to normal, courts will increase, arrests will increase, and you'll see an increase in my indigent defense budget. Probably upstairs too, just guessing.
His has already started increasing.
Yeah. So
It
anyway,
doesn't matter.
that's just an aside.
It doesn't matter if we get $1 out of it or $100,000.
Take
Mhm.
Yep, so I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 21 in the defense grant program.
Second.
All in favor? Court to consider certification of additional revenues in the form of proceeds from other counties for housing inmates.
Okay, his additional revenue was $75,780 over what we had budgeted for the year for the prisoner keep, which is pretty good considering he had to shut it down a couple. It's
Thank you.
attached, there's one attached to it, but I will also be presenting it.
Sure. Thank you.
Judge, I make a motion to allow the certification of additional revenues from other counties for housing inmates.
Second.
All in favor? Court to discuss and consider replacing a part-time position with a full-time position at the county welfare office. Currently, so we set the budget for, next year for a full-time position, and we allowed her, she had additional monies, this year to allow this, her, part-time to go full-time, since she was gonna be out for the remainder of the year. So that's something that needs to be discussed as to whether we allow that position to be a full-time temporary position.
Judge, is Bianca gonna be back in January, Christmas, is that right?
I believe so.
I would like for us to table this, meeting with her in our first court in January,
Mhm.
and just see where things are headed. Cause things are gonna change when she comes back. But I'd like to see it tabled till then, personal opinion.
Can we just not take any action? Because I agree with you.
Good.
Court to consider approval of treasurer's quarter and monthly reports.
So I submitted 6 months or 5 months of
Multiple.
monthly reports, along with my quarterly investment reports for June and September for y'all's approval. And if y'all have questions, please let me know.
First, I think, and appreciate you digging and looking for where you're at. You've been to some seminars and opened your eyes even more. And so keep doing that and keep challenging us as you're doing it. I do appreciate it. And I make most of it, we accept the treasury and monthly reports.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor? Court to consider acceptance of county assessor collector's annual continuing education certificate. I don't know, do we want to do that?
I don't know.
We take no action on
Awesome.
We might not want to take no action because, she has to have these hours and she still needs to stay here to keep calculating taxes.
Yes.
So I suggest y'all take an action.
when the action's over. Judge, I make a motion to accept county tax assessor's annual continuing education certificate.
Second.
All in favor? Awesome.
Here comes the long part.
I don't think this is a long part. She likes to work fast. see if y'all can keep up. That's a totally different story.
If it was wrong, we can blame you, so it's really.
And also the court approved it. Okay, we're gonna start with line item transfer. I am not gonna read every line if it's a large line, a full page, because it's a lot.
And
course.
these are all done to clear up end of year.
Yes, it's all to get end of the year stuff cleaned up. The first little packets that I'm gonna go over, I don't know if they're gonna be ordered in y'all's, but it's gonna be all of the county-wide payroll related lines, which is payroll, fringe, medical insurance, workers' comp, unemployment, and then it will be the non-departmental, like the copier, the fuel and oil lines, the communications line and utilities, that everything was paid out of 409 once we got after we had already started in the year. So it's to clean up that.
And that
So-
won't happen in the year's future because they're all
We
in
budgeted
409
in
at that time.
409 this year for 2021. So we won't have to be transferring from everywhere else. Okay, the first one is going to be the department head appointed official payroll. The total is 56,160 going into the various lines out of various other pay, I think. Yes, that's the right one. Out of the other various lines with the payroll in department head for 56,160. The next two pages together, because there was a lot, the regular general payroll is total 187,406 total across the board, and comes from other payroll lines 187,406 total.
Thank you, Jen.
Part-time is 11,295.29 into these certain part-time lines. That includes the county clerk, which was the election workers that we will be receiving the HAVA CARES money back for, but we won't get it until January probably. So that's 11,295.29. The next section is
He didn't get him all.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
okay. So then we have the Social Security Medicaid, 20,980 into those lines out of other Social Security Medicare lines, 20,980. Then we have retirement, 25,470. Unemployment is 11,931.62. And then medical insurance across the line, across the county was 111,543.50 out of, and it was out of other county medical insurance lines across the board. Then you have, I got my paper. Copier, it's all the copier leases, rentals, all of that from for all of the different departments. We did put it all into 409. So it's $33,084.74. It transferred it out of the individual departments that had those same things for the exact amount. The next one is, let me do that one last. The fuel and oil, which was the same thing, 57,657.82 out of other county fuel and oil lines. Then utilities was 173,221.83 out of all of the utility lines across the county. Communications, 62,875.22. Oh, here, this. Can I see that front page?
No, the last one again?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's 3 pages to that one.
Okay.
And then this was because the last payroll had some lines that we had to clear up, and that was 4,780. Clean that up. Then this non-departmental is the other non-departmental lines like audit expense, the Delta alert system, the property insurance, auto insurance, rural brush truck, legal service, and appraisal district fees comes up to 87,841.83, and I was able to transfer that amount out of other non-departmental lines to clear
Good.
that up. um, there will be a budget amendment for non-departmental too, but
Sure.
now we'll go to the separate department lines. So we have, Commissioners Court, bonds and notary, 212, out of office supplies. County clerk, travel, 117.99, and election at 3685.87, out of records, education and voter registration. District court, court appointed attorney, $1,000 out of court reporter. Court reporter, bonds, 165, out of office supplies. County attorney, equipment, 1,000 to 5,000, 2,869, out of education, communications, and maintenance agreement. District attorney, auto expense, 750, public office liability insurance, 1136, out of witness expense. Auditor's equipment, 834.94, out of maintenance agreement. Treasurer's office, office supplies, equipment, other equipment, and bonds and notaries, total 5,850, out of maintenance agreement, education, and maintenance repairs. IT, other equipment, 228.38, out of communications. Maintenance, elevator maintenance and janitorial supply, 1,300, out of maintenance and repair. Jail, clothing allowance, operating supplies, doctor medical fees, maintenance, all 8,900, out of food. Sheriff, maintenance, repair, miscellaneous, 194.58, out of food. Sheriff, operating supplies, 2,500, out of travel. Sheriff, tires, 1,350, out of travel. Star boot camp, office supplies and auto expense, 350, out of maintenance and repair. Juvenile probation, non-residential, 200, out of copier supplies. Health unit, contract labor, maintenance, repair, and equipment, 1431.80, out of education and training. County welfare, maintenance agreement, and funeral expense, 6,000, out of doctor and medical fees and drug expense. County welfare utility is 184.50, out of maintenance repair. Library new book, our auto expense, 1801.53, out of new books. Senior center, unemployment and operating expense, 300, out of food and janitorial. Youth center program, 1750, out of office supplies, ground supplies, janitorial, food, and lease rentals. Youth center maintenance, repair, and activity supplies, 4780, out of food and lease rentals. Precinct 1, tires and tubes, and road materials, 56,800, out of various lines throughout his budget. Precinct 2, sell expense utilities, equipment utilities, out of road materials. Precinct 3, grounds maintenance and other equipment, out of fuel and oil, $250.90. Precinct 4, equipment, 422.15, out of operating. Precinct 4, tires and tubes and office rent is 5,016.72, out of office operating supplies. Golf course, 130, contract services, out of food concession. Hermley Waterworks, unemployment, 3639, out of workers' comp. EMS, multiple lines of 168,438, out of multiple lines across his budget, 168,438. And a professional service of 1615.17 for EMS, out of maintenance agreements. That's all the line item transfers.
That's a mouthful.
Or two. It's a lot.
I need a drink after that.
Okay,
Water.
now the budget amendments, there are some, this one is county clerk, this one is, it comes out of it will come back to us from the HAVA CARES
Right.
for the COVID money that HAVA is getting.
Right.
So 31,595.29. Sorry. This one is the sheriff department, and it was for the Vine. It is money that we receive it in as a revenue because it's like a pass through. We pay the invoice and then we receive the revenue. So it's just putting that money into the expense line. 8,012.92. This one is for the sheriffs. It is the budget amendment for the certified revenue that we did earlier for 75,780. He purchased 2 trucks, traded in 2 trucks, and got 2 new trucks with that additional revenue. Okay, then the rest of these are actual budget amendments for the lines. The youth center, general liability insurance. For some reason, the previous department head let their liability insurance that covers the molestation insurance and all of that, she let it go. And we have to have that because we have children there. So it wasn't budgeted in there for 2020 because of that, because of her letting it go. So $84.99 was the amount that we had to pay. So there's a budget amendment for that. Youth Center, $3328.39 to clean up the rest of his lines throughout. He took all the money he could from everywhere. Youth Center ground supplies and food. These were a couple additional bills that were turned in after that was done of $277.39. Law Library, this comes out of fees and fines that we collect, but it's to clean up the line, $5,475.27. This is records management. It's the same thing. It comes from fees and fines that we collect, and it's $2,750. Golf course, let's see, fuel and oil and grease, ground supplies, operating supplies, pro shop merchandise, sales, service, maintenance, repair, lease, rentals, a total of $10,000.
What happened there is they've had to take money from all of these different lines for repairs of the irrigation system. It is just falling apart.
So they were over in their lines because of that. This one is Hermley Waterworks, department head, 2505, retirement, 85, and medical insurance, 120 on that. And then non-departmental, these are the only two lines that I couldn't cover by moving money. I used all the money throughout the rest of the other lines, but the remainder of the appraisal district fees, and this was an additional bill that the appraisal district sent for lawyer fees. So $25,926.04. And then maintenance and repair miscellaneous. Due to the COVID, we have COVID CARES money that I'm submitting. I have to have everything submitted to them by today. Hopefully tomorrow. They'll give me a little bit more time since we've been in here for so long. But we will get a big portion of this back because everything that we purchased that had to do with COVID, the new door systems, the temporal scan thing downstairs, laptops that people have purchased for remote access to work at home, all of that kind of stuff, we counted as COVID money, and now we'll be submitting it. But it's a reimbursement, so we don't get it until I get everything submitted. And it's $108,934.22, which is not the full amount of what we're actually getting. We're getting more than that, but if you include Officer Clark's salary and the health unit's overtime and different overtimes, and then we had some jailers that had to be in Lubbock at the bed or outside the door of an inmate that had COVID and that type of stuff. So we get to count all of that and get that reimbursed. So this budget amendment is $134,860.26. However, we will get more than that back from the COVID money. And there is no more COVID money, so don't buy any more stuff.
Can you tell me how you found out that the insurance deal was not paid or whatever it was?
Because they sent us a thing in the mail asking us about it, wondering why.
They sent it.
Yes.
Nobody. There's no way you could find out if they hadn't sent it. We wouldn't have known.
Right.
Right.
Oh.
He didn't realize.
I mean,
it.
unless somebody would have filed some type of complaint, and then we would have had a
And then you'd have
lawsuit.
found,
Yes, and under a lawsuit, but because they sent us a thing like, trying to reinstate us and get us back as a customer, and we started looking and we're like, wait a minute,
Oh,
why do we not have this?
Do you tend to ever insurance deal in your office?
I have all of the binders. I did not have all of the binders for them.
Them. Okay.
And I believe she was under the assumption, because when we went from being Boys and Girls Club of America, out from that, I think she thought that insurance was one that they required. But, I'm assuming that. I don't know because I can't speak for her.
Right.
But there are insurances that the Boys and Girls Club require that we don't require. But when you have children, you must have the molestation in that insurance.
Yeah, I agree 110%.
So,
I'm just wondering if, I don't know of any other way, unless they just send you something that said, of course, they'll send it to you from now on for it to be paid.
Yes,
So
sir.
it'll be paid.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
Yes,
Make
everything will
sure
now
that
come to
it-
my office.
yeah.
I get Hermley Waterworks, and now I get the youth centers.
Okay,
I even
great.
get the stuff for the senior center and that type of stuff. So it comes to my office now.
Okay, that's great, that's great.
One thing we might want to remember, because Angela just said it, there is no more money from the CARES Act for PPE or anything else, right?
Yes. I have to submit everything today, so the cutoff coming from the money that the state or the federal government, whoever is giving us, that money deadline is now. I've already, it's gone, so.
So there is a source that costs us nothing for PPE, personal protection equipment. Neil Kidd, who is the chief for the Texas Division of Emergency Management, has warehouses. He's been begging people to take this PPE from those warehouses, anybody that needs it. It doesn't cost you a dime.
That reminds me.
Is that right?
Correct.
I forgot, again, you make arrangements to get that picked up today, if you haven't already,
Did you talk to Nathan about that yesterday?
in our meeting, but not after. Something else come up?
We have been taking advantage of that. We take advantage of that, monthly,
Yeah.
for sure, if not weekly. We have a warehouse in Lubbock that we pull from, and we also have a warehouse in Amarillo that we pull from. Actually, we have two in Amarillo that we pull from.
So every department,
I don't
Within the
know
county
that
can use it,
all
right?
departments know that
That's what they
exactly
need to
because
know.
Olivia has just recently ordered, well, I don't really know if she just recently ordered. We just got the bill yesterday, but it said April. So, but it had for PPE and stuff like that.
Department heads, all they have to do is contact the county judge and ask them what their needs are,
Perfect.
and then we can go from there.
So we got plenty.
So can you
It's free.
send
I
like
can
an
send
email
an
to
email
the
out.
department heads because, I mean,
I can do
there's really not.
We
enough
actually
here
have our
besides
own
Jason.
storage as well.
I can do that. I'll do that here in a bit. But we have a pallet, well, they said send a truck, because I talked to them last week and we were gonna,
Nathan's not there. Nathan, Nicholas isn't there this afternoon.
yeah, okay,
I need to go in the morning before I'm gonna go.
okay,
We can talk about it in your office.
okay. Sounds good.
So everybody just needs to know, throughout this county, there are supplies. You don't have to buy anything.
Definitely. We'll get it put out.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have a ton of masks still
yeah, we do too.
left over from elections. We got lots of masks and shields.
I've got some in my office. I'll give you some.
We'll have to go shopping with.
Okay, so do we need a vote on that?
I-
Need line items and budget amendment?
Second.
All in favor? Did you autograph that whole stack that was sitting right here?
Dang, I didn't know.
This one, right?
Oh,
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, let's separate. Including that. There you go. All right,
Bills.
ready for bills.
We gotta pay these.
I forgot about bills.
Yeah, that one's
Seven
here.
hundred and 80,000,
All of these.
864.33.
All of them.
That's everything.
We didn't get
That
copies.
was his
Go ahead.
copies.
Second.
All in favor?
Good job, Sean. Let's get out.
We don't
I
have
make
copies in our
motion.
pile, in our kit. Krista gave us all of these.
Everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
So do you need additional sign?
Yeah,
These still need to be signed.
They don't?
Copies.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my
Jake's
bad.
got
All of those
all
are
of those.
I missed that one.
Okay.
We killed a lot of trees.
Yeah.
All right, I missed accounts payable. Who did that one?
Sean did, I
Sean?
seconded it,
Okay.
or Jim seconded it. You can take your choice.
All right, I'll give Jim that one.
You just can't say Sean did it.
No, Sean didn't do it.
Jim gets mad about that.
I know he does. He gets,
I didn't, I thought nobody will ever
He
look
told
at
me in my
it.
office. He told me in my office.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, no problem.
Nobody would see that.
I happened to have it on the screen, and so it was a quick fix. Okay, so these are copies. I don't need those.
If anybody
I don't need-
asks, he is double duty.
He does. He does double the, he works twice as hard. You? That's the correction I had to make, was I had you making a motion and seconding it.
Signing all of these.
Yeah, that was the correct. Jim said, I don't think this can. Yeah.
So
Okay,
you're
here
doing
they are.
double duty now.
See, he just worked twice as hard.
Anything else we need to sign
I-
before I get out of
You
here?
got accounts payable done?
But, this one here.
I've got
Terry.
this one. I don't know.
Mom's getting hungry.
This one,
I'm not talking about my wife. Did you sign it? If you don't sign it, I'm not signing.
well, nobody signed.
Nobody yet.
If you won't sign it, I know something.
Are you as confused as I am, Roger?
Thank you, sir.
Any questions, Roger?
I don't even know enough to know what to ask right now.
Alright.
I gotta check it out, and maybe I'll call you back this afternoon.
Shoot me an email.
Okay.
Okay. Fun one to talk.
Is this yours or? what?
No, that's yours.
He,
If you want it.
he didn't say anything about it this morning,
Okay.
but I'll call him and ask him. I didn't know what the
Okay.
situation was exactly,
I'll ask him.
because I totally forgot after the meeting.
That's all
Okay.
copies, right? Yeah,
So
that's all copies.
I'll talk to him. And
See you. Appreciate